Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So for those of you who've not been here before, this is the surreal world of employee ownership. Cowboys' crotches first thing on a Tuesday morning. So I'd like to add my welcome to you all. I know it's been said already, but it's brilliant to see so many of you here today at the 11th Employee Ownership Conference. It probably sounds like we say this every year, but it's really true. This is our biggest audience yet. 630 of you registered for today. You probably know yourselves as affiliates, partner, trustees or supporter members. I guess I would describe you as our inquisitive explorers, our early adopters and our established experts, all here to share, learn and network together. Before I go any further, I want to add my thanks to John and the team at Capital for Colleagues for their generous support for the conference for the second year. You probably already know Capital for Colleagues are a specialist firm focused on employee ownership, and John, Peter and the rest of the team have been long-term supporters of the EOA, as well as being one of our small number of specialist advisors. The patient capital that Capital for Colleagues is able to provide to fund growth and succession is absolutely critical as we continue to seek to grow the sector. And their innovative approach to this via a listed fund has been one of the cheerleaders for the sector. So it's wonderful to have them as our main sponsor today and to assure that we can deliver the scale and quality of the conference you see. So thank you again, John. Of course, there are a number of other members who have very generously sponsored other aspects of the conference this year. And on behalf of the team and the board and the wider membership, I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. I'm sure that there are people in this room today who have attended every single one of the previous 10 EOA conferences. Got any show of hands? Oh gosh, yeah, I can see Graham at the back, Andrew at the front, and probably a few in between. Yeah, there's somebody waving, that's Barry over there, I can see. This is only my fifth, I absolutely love being here. It falls just before Christmas, so for me it feels like an early Christmas party with all my favourite friends and colleagues. And when times are a bit hard during the year, this is the day that I remember. This is what I remember it's all about, this is why we're here, and this is what we're about. So I just wish I could cork it all up and use it during the year. So one thing I am going to do today, and this is against conference protocol, so I do apologise, I'm going to take a photograph of all of you so I can both put it on my Twitter feed to let everybody know what I'm doing today, but when things are hard next year, I can look at this photograph and remind myself of why we do what we do. So I want a bit of smiles. I know it's early. You haven't got the lights in your eyes though, so can I take some photographs, please? Can we have some waves from the crowd? Yay! So there's one. And another one, yeah. Now if I was a proper party entertainer, I'd now be getting that side of the audience to compete against that side, but I'm not going to try and do that. So, the topic of my address today is likely to be of little surprise to most of you. After the political turmoil of the last year, I want to reflect on what all of that means for us here today and to share some thoughts on how we can capitalise on the changes we've all witnessed and are starting to experience. As part of that, I want to also share some of the EOA's priorities for the coming year as we work together with you on our shared ambition to move employee ownership into the mainstream. They say life goes more quickly the older we get, and I really can't believe it's a year since we were all here last time. And what a year it's been. So let me just remind you of some of the highlights and lowlights. After January's stock market crash, and with the oil prices rock bottom, the FTSE warned us of another recession. In February, we started preparing for the EU referendum, and by April, the campaign was in full and often what some considered distasteful flow. Of course, June the 23rd arrived and brought with it a huge shock, and it signalled the start of a journey that will see some of the most profound changes in British life in a generation. After that, the changes came fast and hard. By the end of June, the so-called three wise men of Westminster were gone. Cameron, Farage and Clegg had all stepped down. And July arrived with a new Prime Minister and a new narrative. September heralded the acrimonious re-election of Jeremy Corbyn and the appointment of Diane James as the new female leader for UKIP, well, for 3 weeks at least. And then just when it appeared that the two sides of Brexit were maybe coming to some sort of strained reconciliation, the judicial review last month reopened those healing wounds with a vengeance. And finally, it was all topped off this month following a presidential campaign that really wouldn't have looked out of place in Netflix House of Cards, with the eventual and controversial election of Donald Trump. So if anyone ever tells you politics is boring, you just need to remind them of the year that was 2016. Whilst there have been numerous assessments of why Brexit happened, and whatever side of the argument you were on, there is one thing that everyone can agree on, and that is that the previous systems of the establishment were not working, as seen by over 50% of the public voicing their opinion that the government did not understand them, their lives, or the daily challenges that they encounter. Fueled by frustration and encouraged by the media, our politicians are therefore now challenged like never before, and there is a collective call for a new relationship between government and the people. At the same time, the old systems of business are also being challenged. Employees and the public will no longer quietly accept the excesses of senior executive pay or the poor corporate behaviours that have brought business into the limelight for all the wrong reasons. The challenge to do not only what is legal, but also what is morally right is now constant, and there is an outcry for a better form of business. So across all aspects of society, those with greater power are now being challenged to take greater responsibility. In response, the Prime Minister is using phrases that were previously only part of her opponents' vocabularies. Calls for an inclusive economy, to share wealth, to give more people control and to create more mutuals, and now familiar calls for the type of society that Theresa May says she wants to deliver. Now, whilst I maintain a very healthy level of scepticism about what politicians promise, I actually am confident that the PM's narrative is not just rhetoric. In particular, since her appointment, she and her ministers have made consistent references to three key themes that lie at the heart of the new industrial strategy, which I believe are highly relevant for employee ownership. Firstly, the need to improve corporate governance, and specifically to ensure that businesses behave more responsibly and with greater purpose. Secondly, widening social mobility and ensuring opportunity is spread more evenly, giving people more control of their lives in order to develop their economic independence. And thirdly, making sure that Britain stays open for business during and beyond the journey towards and beyond Brexit, with a clear focus on improving the current levels of productivity. So what does this mean for employee ownership? And more specifically, what does it mean to the sector? What does it mean to your businesses? And what does it mean to the EOA? Let me first give you my view of what I believe it means for the sector. It's clear that from a political perspective, the opportunity for employee ownership has not been as positive since the days of the coalition government. But at an economic level, we are now all faced with massive uncertainty. So the question is, how can we realise that opportunity and at the same time convert that economic challenge into a positive? As the government seeks solutions to its challenges of corporate irresponsibility, a lack of economic inclusion and ineffective employee representation, I would assert that not only is employee ownership perfectly placed to provide an answer, but that it actually represents the future. Our key challenge is to ensure we have the evidence, the voice, the stories, and the most effective platforms to demonstrate the economic case of why employee ownership works. That's why a more transparent and inclusive culture underpinned by shared ownership supports more profitable and successful businesses. Why employee ownership and employee representation on boards and trusts and councils as part of an employee-owned culture unleashes greater responsibility and a sense of ownership, leading to better, longer-term decision-making. Why engagement as part of ownership empowers employees to be more efficient, resulting in higher levels of productivity. And why rewarding success more fairly empowers individuals and helps enable their financial independence. At an economic level, and whilst the corporate finance markets remain depressed, we must also continue to ensure it's more widely understood how employee ownership can deliver a solution for entrepreneurs and business owners planning the next chapter of their business. How those seeking a solution to succession can use employee ownership to leave a legacy that secures the future of the firm, whilst at the same time unlocking the financial returns they need for their retirements. How for entrepreneurs establishing startups, employee ownership can help them attract and retain the best talent and establish an inclusive culture from the outset. How business owners looking to scale up and grow can use employee ownership to engage their employees by giving them a real stake in the outcome. And finally, in support of Theresa May's call for more mutuals, we must make sure that the commissioners and public sector leaders understand how the power of employee ownership can support public service spin-outs to deliver better outcomes and better value for the public purse. So it's clear we must prioritise our campaigning to ensure that employee ownership is seen as the solution to many of the challenges laid down by Brexit, and that we can clearly demonstrate how we can support the government to deliver its ambitions of creating a society for everyone. At an organisational level, I also believe there are clear opportunities for businesses like yours to capitalise on the current environment for your commercial, reputational and operational benefit. For it's your businesses that already demonstrate the corporate responsibility that the government is calling for. And through employee representation on your boards, your trusts and councils, you're already demonstrating effective examples of employee representation as part of that. Most of you also operate in a far more transparent environment, sharing information with employees, developing their financial literacy, and ensuring that they are equipped to fulfil their ownership responsibilities. And many of your businesses will already be supporting the distribution of wealth more fairly through profit shares and bonus-based systems, and often by paying more than the minimum wage. You are already supporting social mobility and financial independence. So businesses like yours have a tremendous opportunity to use your ownership structure to gain competitive advantage as you differentiate yourself with clients and customers, position your suitability with suppliers and partners, develop your profile in your local communities, and secure interest and commitment from future and current employees. All of you know that you are special when you compare yourselves to other parts of the economy. But I think you can be sure that from now on, the government will also be viewing you as economically important, as you provide perfect role models for how to manage business in a better way. Finally, the challenging political and economic landscape is something that the EOA must also respond to as we look to 2017 and beyond. So as part of our existing strategy to mainstream employee ownership and grow our membership, we'll stay focused on 3 priorities of influencing, campaigning and celebrating. We'll seek every opportunity to influence the economic and political landscape in favour of employee ownership. And I'm delighted to announce that in 2017, the EOA will be leading a new high-profile piece of work with partners to facilitate and encourage discussion and debate around this, with a view to publishing next year new recommendations that will form inform where and how to exploit the opportunity for more employee ownership in the economy. We'll also continue to campaign to raise awareness of employee ownership in key sectors. As part of that, I'm delighted that with the support of the ICAEW, who are here today, we will prioritise launching a major awareness-raising campaign across the UK, which will aim to ensure that every single accountancy practice has at least one EO specialist by 2020. And as part of campaigning in 2017, we'll celebrate with you the 5th Employee Ownership Day. This special day, however, will be part of a year-long campaign with our members and other EO businesses to ensure that every business is encouraged and supported to pass on the message to others about the benefits of employee ownership. So whilst it's not advisable to gaze too far into the future, and notwithstanding the challenges that we will all face with whatever Brexit might bring, I do believe that the next year and beyond looks very positive for the employee ownership sector. And I'm confident that with your continued support, the EOA will stay at the forefront of maximising the opportunities that will present themselves. Let me finish by saying that whilst I've had the pleasure of being the custodian of the EOA for the last year, there is an absolutely amazing team of people that make all of what I've just said achievable. In particular, I want to pay tribute again, I did this yesterday, but I can't do it enough, to the team, Ollie, Lisa, Keely, Hannah and Katie, some of whom are in the room today. Without their dedication, tenacity and real hard work, my job would be impossible and not half as enjoyable. I also want to thank Simon. I also want to thank Simon and the rest of the board for their commitment and support of me too, and of the whole team over the last year. And with the added energy of our new board members and a newly refreshed membership council, the team and I really look forward to working with you in collaboration as sponsors, as members, to ensure that together we move closer to our objective of moving employee ownership into the mainstream. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Look forward to catching up with you throughout. Thank you.